You know what, guys? It helps when I unmute myself. Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming blacksmithing. Hey guys, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the stream today. It is a Monday, and you know what? I was not ready for today to be Monday. The weekend is just never long enough. So I mean, time keeps moving, and here we are. So we're gonna get through this Monday together, and hopefully we can have some fun while doing it. So on Friday we finished riveting together our ladle, and so this is the ladle. It still needs a little bit of cleanup, but I'll probably do that next or this coming weekend. I was pretty busy this weekend, even though I did not much, or I didn't feel like I did much. But yeah, I went and visited some family and did a little bit of relaxing and gaming. Yes, Monday reasons. So, but yeah, this is our ladle that we made together. Like I said, it needs a bit of cleanup work, and but I think overall it came out pretty nice. I definitely think the bowl needs to be a little smaller though. So yeah, there's that. And the other thing that we finished on Friday was a baby leaf. So it's always nice to do something basic, something quick, and something that it can finish in like one stream or like a little bit less than one stream. So we were able to finish this lovely leaf. It's gotten two wraps around it with like a little keychain loop. So I'm pretty excited about this one. I'm getting better and faster at making leaves. So those are the first two, or those things we finished on Friday. And today we are going to be starting a brand new project. And that project is going to be a pair of scissors. So this right here is our set of kitchen scissors that the butler uses for, opening like stuff, when cooking. So it's just a pair of Fisker scissors that I bought one day while I was trying to sew. And I accidentally cut paper with them. And the second you cut paper with a pair of sewing scissors, you can no longer use them to cut fabric. So these became the kitchen scissors. Well, I think these are kind of crappy little kitchen scissors, and I want to remedy that by making the butler a really nice set of kitchen scissors. So we're going to attempt to do that. This is going to be quite a challenge project for me, but I think that together we can make it happen. So, hey Corwin, welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for re-upping with your Prime. Thank you so much for that. So, we are going to be taking these two pieces of the spring that Corwin sent me, and we're going to turn these into two halves of a piece of scissors, or of a scissor, two halves of a scissor. Anyway, I burned off what little coating was on here. There's a lot less coating on the larger spring than some of the smaller springs. So it didn't take terribly much, but it still kind of smells in here. So hopefully that smell will go away as the stream continues. But yeah, we're going to take some spring steel and attempt to make some scissors. We've got an ad here starting in a couple of seconds, probably around 30 seconds or so. So I will probably, I'll talk a little bit more about our project after that's done. Let's see if I can't light the forge real fast, because it's kind of on the colder side in here. Oh, come on. You worked for me this morning. What's your issue? All right. So I'm going to put these guys, both of them, in the forge so that they're nice, or they're getting nice and hot. And I still have my safety glasses on the top of my head and not over my eyes, so let's remedy that. Hey, Mahalo, welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. It is like warm, or I mean, it's like, it was warm on Friday, and today it is like super cold in here. It's about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, so I guess that's not super, super cold. It's been a lot colder in here than that. But this yo-yoing between being warm and being cold is not doing my lungs any favors. That and the addition of the paint off of this particular coil spring, it wasn't the same stuff as the coil spring that we were using for the punches and chisels. This is more like a paint, less like a rubberized coating. So it wasn't quite as noxious smelling, but it was still kind of gross. All right, so we are back. So I have put 2 half coils of the coil, one of the larger coil springs that Corwin sent us in the mail, in the forge to be heated. Did I? No, I actually had heated them in the forge. I did it this morning, so the butler wasn't even here, you know? I really did hardly anything. Let me open the garage door a little bit just to give myself a hair bit more ventilation. Not all the way, but just a foot up. Because there is a tiny bit left in the forge, and I want to make sure that I can vent it all out. So yeah, we burned off what was left of the little coating. There wasn't a lot there. And it's more like a paint than a rubberized coating. And so a lot of it had just chipped off. So it wasn't that big of a thing. So yeah, I don't want to get a stinky headache. So we've got the window cracked. This door is wide open, and I have now taken the garage door up a foot. So I should have plenty of ventilation. And if I need any more, I've got the industrial fan, and I will point it out towards the garage door so that all of that stinky goes outside. So, yeah, like I said, we are going to be making a pair of scissors today. So I brought out this pair of scissors. This is the scissors, like I said earlier, that the butler uses for cooking. So a lot of times, you know, when we're opening packages, we use the packaging for hamburger that we get at the grocery store. It's kind of like a vacuum seal kind of thing. So we use that for we use these for that. And, you know, several other things. They're just like, you know, utility kitchen scissors. But they're not good enough for like cutting meat or anything like that. I don't necessarily feel like I need a pair of scissors for meat, but I just want to, you know, give the butler a better set of scissors to use in the kitchen. So we're going to take a look at some of the features of these scissors. So I love the handles on these scissors. These are definitely right-handed scissors. You know, it works a little bit better this way than this way. Not too bad or not too different. I've seen some scissors where they are much more bent to be more right-handed than left-handed. I think that's all right. I think we can manage that. So we're probably going to do the handles a little bit close to this design. One side's going to be a little bit rounder. The other side's going to be a little bit longer of an oval. Now, the other thing that I really wanted to take a look at with these scissors was the action, right? So opening them is relatively, easy, you know. The rivet's pretty loose, but when you start to cut them, or to cut items, the scissors, like the blades, kind of like bind up a little bit. And that's deliberately there so that you can like cut correctly. If they were not as tight, you wouldn't get as clean of a cut. So nice of you to reward a butler. See, I'm trying. I try. The butler puts up with me, so I wanna help out the butler a little bit. So I watched a few videos about blacksmiths who were making scissors, and one of them actually used spring steel and bent the blade inward towards each other. So I think that's probably how we're going to attempt to do that. But yeah, we need to focus in on making sure that the blades are very well aligned and that, the rivet is nice and tight. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to focus in on these particular projects. So normally what I will do for a lot of the projects that we normally do on stream is we will forge them together, and I take you through the entire process of forging a new tool or a piece of decorative work, whatever, what have you, right? And then I take them and I do all of the cleanup work. Oh, that's a plastic bag. That was kind of scary. There's wind coming from the garage door and it blew a plastic bag in here. Anyway, so I do a lot of the cleanup work on the weekends, and I don't show that to you guys usually. So I think in this case specifically, because the cleanup is such a large part of the project, what I think I'm going to do is we're going to do a lot of the cleanup here in the shop. So I'm thinking this project is probably going to take a couple of weeks. I'm thinking it's going to take me 2 or 3 streams in order to shape the blades, because I don't think it's going to be that big of a thing. I think the shapes are relatively standard, and I think that it's going to be fine. I think what's going to take the rest of the time, the other 4 streams, is doing all of the cleanup, the grinding, the filing, and making sure that the scissors fit together perfectly. So that is our goal for the next 2 weeks. I think it's going to be thereabouts. So yeah, starting to forge so today we are going to be forging the blades for the scissors, and then we'll focus on forging in the handles, and then we're going to start doing our cleanup. So fingers crossed this works well for us. All right, now I'm going to turn on the record function. I probably should have done that a little bit earlier when we were taking a look at the scissors. My kitchen scissors, and it would have probably been a little bit better, but whatever. All right, so one last thing that I want to talk to you guys about before I start really getting into making these scissors. So I told you earlier that Monday came way too soon. I'm just not ready. So I am actually, I'm a little bit tired still. My breathing is a little bit weak. So I'm going to forge for as long as I can today, but it might be a little bit short. So we're going to go as long as we can, up to the 2.5 hour mark. But, do be aware, it may end up being a little bit of a shorter stream. Alrighty, let's take a look. Looks like one of the 2 is pretty nice and hot. You know what? Who is calling me? Potential spam. You can go away. Alrighty. I don't even know if you guys could hear my phone ringing. Okay. So the first thing that we're gonna do, straighten out the spring. We're gonna flip this around a little bit. All right, let's get some more heat on there. We got an all right amount of straightening. This is kind of on the thicker side, which is why I picked this particular coil spring in the first place, because I think this is going to be a good size to start these scissors with. Little spam. Yes, we've got some spam. We are coming in on our primaries for our state representatives, and I've been assaulted by political ads. Ugh. Trying to get me to vote for one candidate or another. All right, can I get this to work without dropping it? I don't know. All right, that's a lot straighter. Let's put this back in the fire. Exactly, Nim. No politics on the stream. That includes my phone. Yes, I do. Hopefully, I do hope that I get a second wind. Yeah, we're going to deny. Oh, thanks, Mahalo, for that ban. Is that the half inch or the 5/8 diameter spring? It is the 5/8 diameter spring that I am starting with. I wish they knew. I wish they would stop calling and texting me. I really think, I don't know. But yes, we are working with the 5/8 inch wide spring just because I wanted a little bit more girth for these scissors. Yeah. Should fit in your hardy hole to straighten. Definitely should. But I'm also, it's just as easy for me to hammer it straight along the front face of the anvil. So, it's getting pretty straight. I'm pretty happy with it. If we do need to go to the hardy hole, we can do that. Does something in or that galvanize act differently in the forge? Okay, so I'm going to tell you, do not put anything that is galvanized in your forge, right? Because galvanization is a zinc-based coating, and inhaling zinc fumes is toxic. You will get very, very sick. At least, like for a few weeks to months, depending on how much you're inhaling. But you will get, theoretically, you will get better. Chrome, on the other hand, if you inhale chrome, that's even worse. That will build up in your system over time, and the more you inhale, the worse it gets, and that never goes away. It never filters through your system. So galvanization, like I said, it's zinc-based. You definitely do not want to put that in your forge unless you have already sanded off the galvanization or, something similar. But you don't want to risk it. You don't want to get sick. You only got one set of lungs. I ought to know. So these coil springs that we've been using are coated in like a plasticky paint coat, like shell. So it's still relatively toxic to inhale. So when I am burning this off, what I'm doing is I'm sticking in the forge and I'm leaving completely the shop. I open the garage door all the way open. I've got the industrial fan going, and I kind of like walk around the shop because I have a few windows here and there just to make sure that nothing's happening. And then, yes, acidic vinegar soak for zinc plating. Or you, like I said, you can grind or sand it off. So yeah, and then I wear a respirator when I come back in to turn off the forge. So you do not, yeah, it's bad. It's not quite as bad as zinc. But do be very careful about what you're putting in the forge, because you don't want to inhale something icky. All right. Got some more heat. And let's do another heat. Oops, I hit the wrong button. Alrighty. All right. Nice and straight. Let's put this back in the forge so we can heat it up. And we'll pull the other side out. All right. And we are going to be working with both of these blades, or both sides of the scissors at the same time. So we will be forging one side and then the other side and then taking a break. A breather for me. So then I can answer questions and talk and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to take this a little bit on the slower side, at least for today. Maybe we'll speed up a little bit on Wednesday, but I need to start a little slow at least. So my plan for my plan of attack for this is to work on the blades first. And my plan for doing that is we are going to taper the end of the bars. I want to make a really, really short, stubby taper. But I kind of want to create the tip of the scissors first. Can't rush it. Don't run with scissors. Exactly. We're not running with these scissors. We're going to take it slow and take our time, because the better and more accurate we forge these pieces, the easier it is going to be when we're doing our grinding and filing. So, hey Blue Red, welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a really short, stubby taper to kind of create the point of our scissors, at least as best as I can. So we're going to taper it kind of starting like we're working with on a leaf. That's going to be a pretty short, stubby taper. Blue Red, thank you so much for that subscription. 4 months already. Yes. I feel like it hasn't been that long since like November, December. Time is flying, but then it's also dragging, right? I feel like this last month has gone forever, but also, flown by. And I'm not entirely sure why that is. I think it probably has something to do with the fact that there's a lot going on in the world. And we're going to leave it at that, as far as what's going on in the world. You all know. But yeah. But I'm so glad and so thankful for all of your support, all of your viewership and your subscriptions. And, I'm having so much fun. And yeah. Thank you. Oh, goodness. Like I said, my breath is a little bit shallow today. So apologies if I sound a little bit on the breathy. We're going to wait a little bit longer just to let the heat soak into the bars. It's not too big of a deal to run a little bit on the cold side when we're just straightening the bars, but when we start tapering them, I want to make sure that we're not fish lipping the bars. So, yes. It is a lot of fun to be here. Well, I'm glad that you guys have fun. I have so much fun hanging out with you guys. It's a blast. And, we've been getting to know each other and learning stuff and, growing. I like it. Definitely, a highlight of my week is coming on and streaming for you guys. So, yeah. Let's see. Well, what did I do this weekend? I told you guys a little bit. I went and hey, Sandwich, welcome to the stream. So this weekend on Saturday I guess between Saturday and Sunday, because the butler and I got married on the 29th of February in 2016. So we got married on Leap Day. And so every 4 years we actually have an anniversary. So this year we did not have an anniversary. But it's kind of halfway between our last anniversary and our next anniversary. So we kind of celebrated a little bit. We went out to lunch with my mother-in-law, and it was pretty fun. We spent about 2 hours kind of chatting and eating and fellowshipping. It was fun. Yeah, happy anniversary. Thank you guys. So yeah, it's kind of like in between my anniversary. My anniversary doesn't exist this year. I told my mom that I didn't want to have to remember my own anniversary, except for every 4 years. So, I've always had this weird fascination with Leap Day, because it's just weird. I know that it takes 365 and a quarter days to get around the sun, but it's weird, Why do we add another day? Why do we take that day away, My daughter has almost a Leap Day baby, but was an hour and a half too late. Oh, see, I always wanted to be a Leap Day baby or have one. And I got to a point eventually where I knew that I wasn't going to be having any kids. And so I just decided that, getting married on Leap Day was good enough for me. But yeah, so it's weird. One of those weird things about, time and the calendar and how we measure it, I guess. Just think, though, you can celebrate on February 28th and March 1st in the non-leap years. See, that's kind of what our parents do. So, my mother-in-law, took us out on the 28th, and then my mom, did what she was gonna do on the 1st. So we kind of got to celebrate on both the 28th and the 1st. So, I mean, I didn't want to do the anniversary thing very frequently, but they do. So, I guess it's fine. Wait till you wrap your head around leap seconds. Oh, you mean to tell me there are leap seconds? Crazy. Honestly, though, I'm not terribly shocked. I did read an article on Facebook a couple months ago that was talking about how the Earth slowed down like an eighth of a second or something like that because of the way we are using water. And I thought that was kind of interesting. My first grade teacher was born on leap day, so we were the same age, right? Yep, leap seconds are a thing. I mean, I don't think that I've actually looked into it, but like I said, I'm not surprised. But I feel like you'd almost have to kind of like correct the atomic clock every so often because of inaccuracies within, our current ability to measure time, but also due to the fluctuations in the speed of the planets and stars and the Earth itself. So, I don't know. So we are going to have an ad that's about to start in about 3 minutes. So I'm going to see if I can't do one more heat before that ad starts, and then we'll see what we're doing. We'll hang out a little bit while that ad plays. All right, let's start with this one. This one's a little bit hotter. We're getting a little bit of fish lipping. That's exactly what I did not want to see. So we might actually want to spend a little bit of extra time in the forge. And I didn't actually start that taper very 90 degrees, So we're kind of fixing that also as we go. More heat. Let's pull out the other side. Grab some more heat. That one looks like it's less fish lipping, or fish lipping less is what I mean. Time is irrelevant. It's made up human construct. I mean, that's true to an extent, because time is always moving forward, but we don't have to measure it, Time is measured by the decay of cesium atom. The planet's orbit cares not for what the said decay. Is it? I always thought that it was like the rotation of the planet and how it changes. I guess I haven't researched too much into it. Time is real. I'm really bad with time in general, so I kind of I watch the clock and I try and abide as best I can by it, but I don't understand it very well. How's the metal smacking going? Are you bending metal by sheer will? We're doing pretty good with the smacking of the metal. I am currently tapering the end of some coil spring that we just straightened. We're going to be making a set of scissors. Kitchen shears is what I'm trying to make. But it's going to kind of be a stretch project for us. Time keeps on slipping into the future. Yes. Now that song is stuck in my head. Scissor puns. I would sheer will. I've given a few haircuts in my time. Yeah. Describe how time is measured technically, but planets do not really care for our time measurement. But what they do what they want. Yes, I need some more scissor puns. All the scissor puns. Wait, within reason. Keep them safe for work. We're gonna keep them safe for work. I know my puns are cutting edge. The first cut is the deepest. I know that song, but I can't remember who sings it. But then I also can't remember the person who sings the other song that you were talking about, Corwin. The only thing I remember about that song is it used to play on like a FedEx commercial or something. Time keeps on slipping into the future. Or maybe it wasn't a FedEx commercial. Was it like an airplane commercial? I don't remember. I just remember there being airplanes in the commercial. So we are going to wait a little bit longer this time to heat up the ends of these bars. Like I said, I'm trying really hard not to get as much fish lipping, and in order to get rid of that, all I need to do is like allow the steel to soak in the heat all the way into the core. Originally, it seems to be by Cat Stevens, Stephen Miller Band, and Seal for Fly Like an Eagle. Yeah, oh, Fly Like an Eagle. That's the name of that song, isn't it? We also did, when I was in grade school, we sang Fly Like an Eagle for one of our programs, or like our singing program. It was kind of weird. Sheryl Crow for the first cut is the deep. You're right. Sheryl Crow did the first cut is the deepest. Man, I'm really rusty on my, musical artist or name that songwriter. But yeah. Ray is on edge today, but she has sharp focus. Something like that. I am definitely focusing on the sharp. Her and Rod Stewart's versions are the most famous one, it seems. Yeah, I feel like I remember Rod Stewart's version a little bit more because that used to... when I worked at the jewelry store, we used to play the classic radio station all the time because, it's non-objectionable, and, if the people who were out on the floor could hear it, what we were listening to, it wouldn't cause problems. So I remember the Rod Stewart version because every day the exact same playlist played in the same order. I just kind of feel like, they started a playlist on like Spotify or something, and then it just went through the whole playlist. So I'm having a tiny bit of issue with my chat right now. I think I'm not dropping any frames or anything, but for whatever reason, my chat is connecting and disconnecting. So if I miss any of your comments, and if you feel like I've missed a comment, repost, please. All right. We can turn up the heat a little bit further. But yeah, so we're making some scissors. Like I said, this is going to be a very big challenge project for me because we need to make sure that the scissors fit together perfectly. A lot of times when I make, especially the rivet itself, a lot of times when I make rivets, they're not nearly as tight as they need to be. So sometimes they like jiggle a little bit. You know, they're kind of on the loose side. So I need to make sure that everything is perfect and it fits together just so. Mine does that all the time on my phone. I have to be on the PC for chat to be useful. Yeah, I don't know why I'm having trouble connecting and disconnecting to chat. Normally that doesn't happen to me, but it seemed to be today at the very least. Hopefully it stops and it stabilizes, and hopefully that's not, the harbinger of the stream going down. We still have the construction going on down the road, but they're not doing anything today because it's kind of rainy and cold out there. So I think it would be a little bit too miserable for the construction guys. All right, I'm going to move the camera so that we can get a different view of what's going on. So the goal today for today's stream is to get the blades shaped. And then on, well, goodness gracious, I've done some fun things. I'm gonna do this real fast, and then I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna do that. Okay. Yeah, so my goal today is to shape the blades. And then for Wednesday's stream, we're going to focus in on shaping the handles of our scissors. And then we'll see what happens. We'll see if I can get my goals finished in a timely fashion. Today I've got to finish a pair of tongs and make some molds to cast some half-inch square aluminum bronze. Ooh, aluminum bronze is interesting. It's kind of difficult in my experience, it's kind of difficult to get it to work quite right, because the copper never wants to flow, and then the aluminum, it flows too quickly. So I wish you all the best, in your endeavor, casting aluminum bronze. But yeah, several years ago, I decided that I wanted to do some casting, and so I forged myself a set of crucible tongs, and I forged myself a pour handle so that I could do that. I only ever used them one time, and I was really impatient, and I did not allow my bronze to melt long enough. So it did not work well. I ended up casting that particular piece in pewter a couple weeks later. So, yeah. Hey, Bubba, welcome to the stream. Maybe someday we'll do a little bit of pewter casting, but we're definitely probably going to stay away from bronze casting, at least for the moment, until I can get some good friends to come and help me out. All right, let's do another heat. Oh yeah, and I have to make a tray to melt in the gas forge. Ah. Yeah, you'll definitely need something to help melt in the gas forge. To melt it in. Like a crucible or something. All right, we're gonna do one more heat where we are tapering out that blade there, or like the tip of the blade, before we start kind of squishing it out. Or, tapering longer, I guess. All right. Does modern pewter or modern made pewter have a lot of lead in it? No, modern pewter is a tin-based product. They got rid of lead in the commercially available pewters, I think in the 80s. So a lot of US made pewter is now made with tin as opposed to lead. I have a neighbor who does a lot of casting. She won an Emmy for her casting. Ooh. An Emmy. There are six Emmys in my house. I could go get one. So the butler makes commercials for our local TV station. And so there is several categories for news programming as well as like commercial production that for the Emmys, and the butler has won 6 of them for various commercial projects. So, and those are kind of local Emmys. There are, I think, 3 divisions of the Emmys. So there's the West Coast Emmys, the Midwest Emmys, and the East Coast Emmys. And so we live in the Midwest. So yeah, we actually have 6 Emmys in the house. But the butler has also won some international advertising awards as well. They're very good at what they do. I think that's probably the fanciest dinner I ever went to. We went to the Emmys the first year the butler won. The dinner was kind of gross, actually, but it was sure fancy. It was sure fancy. But yeah, I used to do a lot more casting. These days I don't do a lot of it, mostly because it takes a lot more for the larger scale stuff that I like to do. It takes quite a few people in order to make it happen smoothly. We might be, if we decide to do some casting in the future, it'll definitely be small scale casting. But I think in order to do that, I really want to get a 3D printer. When you have that many plates, you know that they've been under the heat lights a long time. Yes, definitely. I think the best, really, really expensive meal I've ever had. Look at Ray being all posh, going to the Emmys and all that fancy jazz. Honestly, I think the best meal I had at a fancy, whatever large scale or, upscale thing was the Metals Museum has a benefit in the fall every year for a fundraiser to keep the lights on and keep working. And so it's relatively expensive a plate, but those who repair, because it happens during repair days, so those who volunteer their time, they get to eat for free. And that dinner was amazing. Usually it's like home cooked, like comfort food. So like, you know, grits and like burnt ends and like fried chicken and stuff like that. So good. It's like excellent. But it's a little bit fancy, a little bit higher scale. That was a lot better than the Emmys dinner. Maybe it was fake food they use in the commercials. I mean, that could have been. Definitely could have been the case. That seems to happen with a lot of fancy dinners. Gross, tiny portions, and you have to go to White Castle afterwards. Right? I would think you wouldn't want any scale when casting, even small scale. I guess that's true. The more scale you get when you're, you know, casting, the worse. Because then you have to, like, scrape it off the top. And then you have to put it in a place that it's not going to set on fire, you know. Normally, though, it's called dross when you're casting as opposed to scale. All right, let's do another heat. I love it, guys. I love it. All right, so I've got a nice tip there. It's not perfect, but it's close enough that I'm pretty happy with it. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to kind of draw that taper back so that we can kind of shape our blades before we really start thinning them out. And I'm going to grab some more heat. All right. And periodically as we go, we are going to be comparing the two blades just to make sure that we're not too far off. But for the moment, we're going to heat things up again. So this spring steel is actually a bit harder than the mild steel that I usually use. So it's taking me a little bit of extra effort each blow. So I'm really trying to kind of give myself a little bit of breathing time in between each heat. So looking at the scissors, we kind of want a similar-ish shape to these guys. So we want like a gradual taper, but we don't want it to grow too much. Do all your hammers have wooden handles? Not all my hammers have wooden handles, although most of them do, and I prefer wooden handles. I have, where are they? I have a set of car body hammers. There's one right there. So this is a hammer that it's a car body hammer. I bought this guy at Harbor Freight. It's for taking dings and dents out of cars. And this guy has a fiberglass handle. And I used to have a set of 4 of these guys. This is the only one that has survived. And the reason is because I've broken and melted the handles on every other hammer in the set. So that's partially why I prefer wood, because the fiberglass handles are constantly melting on me. They break, and when they do break, they splinter everywhere. It's painful. Never fails. I always get a sliver in my hand. So wood is the preferred handle material. I have used handles that were made out of, like, just, I don't know. I don't necessarily know that it's like pine, but maybe it's oak. But I actually prefer these guys. What is this one? This is like, what is it? I can't even remember. Hickory. That's what it's hickory. Yes, it's hickory. Last night, my houseplant was moving. I found a green tree frog in it. I tried to catch it, and it jumped on my face, 1 foot over each eyebrow and 1 on each cheek. Talk about getting one's heart rate up. I can imagine. I'll have to tell you guys about my salad story. But yes, fiberglass is awful. When it splinters, and it never fails. I end up melting a little divot into the fiberglass handle because everything that I do is hot formed, and it kind of has a tendency to, because normally I'm using sheet when I use those particular hammers, and so I end up hitting the handle with the edge of the sheet, and it's still hot, so it melts that fiberglass. And then eventually it melts it enough that it just breaks the head off. So I have a second full set of those, but I haven't even opened them. I haven't even taken the plastic off of the faces because I don't like fiberglass handles. I prefer wood. So Lexi's story reminds me of this. I used to work at a grocery store, and I worked in like the deli, and in that deli they had a hot food section, and we had this whole like hot food bar. So it'd be like fried chicken and beef and Chinese and Italian and whatever you wanted, you could find it. And we had a salad bar that was attached. And one day, one of the patrons came up to me and goes, "There's a frog in the salad bar." And I was like, "What? There's no way there's a frog in the salad bar." And they're like, come on, I gotta show you this frog. And so I go over to the salad bar, and there's this teeny little frog. It's a little green thing hopping around in the lettuce. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I went and I caught that frog, and, in the salad. And I eventually, because you can't let the frog just jump in the salad. So I found it, and I was like, I didn't know what kind of frog it was. I thought maybe it was like some kind of crazy poison dart frog. It was bright green. And so I kind of threw it at one of my coworkers who was wearing plastic gloves. I was like, at least you're wearing gloves. And so then I washed my hands, and I had to stand next to the salad bar for the next 30 minutes to make sure nobody was eating from it. I have a few long ash 2x2s for hammer axe handles. You'll have to tell me what you think about those, how they function. Because I've heard ash handles work pretty well, but most of the handles that I have are just the ones that, because most of my hammers have come from the store, like Lowe's or whatever hardware store. And then I have a few good ones with hickory handles. but I don't think I have any ash handles. So you'll have to let me know how that works. All right, let's do a little bit more shaping. But first, I think we're going to change the camera angle again. I think I want to go here and a little bit on the lower side. Give ourselves a little bit of variety. Okay. All right. Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream, Nisix. The ash holes kept moving fireward, and my ash trees got killed by the borers. Try to get a piece of steel out of here. All right, this is going to take me a little bit of extra effort. Like I said, I'm really trying to focus in on shaping these scissor blades before I start flattening them out, because if I don't have them shaped right, then they start getting weird and gnarly when I try and flatten. All right, I'm going to pull the other one out, and we're going to take a look at these guys. Let me grab another set of tongs so I can angle them so you guys can see both of them, just like I can. Okay, so it's looking like this guy is a little bit thinner than this guy, but I think this side is about the same. So we're starting to get there. We're starting to make some progress. I think we need to work a little bit more on this side to kind of thin that out a little bit more. But overall, I think they're doing all right. I think these will work a little better. As I drop things. John Norwood from Old Hickory Forge, ironically, and Niles Orgren use ash handles for their stuff. I lost 3 ash trees. Ooh. It's never good to lose trees unless you get to plant more. We lost a tree last year that we had to have chopped down, and now there's like no shade in my backyard. So I really want to plant another tree. So I need to start being on the lookout for trees, because this is the time where they start coming out at the store, like the nurseries and stuff. So I really need to kind of figure out if there's a tree style, or I guess not style, species, a tree species that I want to plant in the yard so that we can start getting some more shade in the backyard. It says there is an ad break in progress. So I'm glad that I was able to finish that last heat before the ad started. Hands are just a little bit on the cold side. I kind of feel like having the front garage door cracked is making it a little bit on the colder side in here. It's kind of sucking the heat out of the steel a little bit. But I also can definitely smell the remnant of the coating that was on the spring, and I want to make sure that it just keeps on dissipating as we go. So I don't feel like I can close the extra draft that I've created. I think I need a little bit more time. So yeah. I have maples, oaks, and elms for shade, but the cactus drop acorns every year, so I don't recommend them if you want to, or if you don't want to clean up a lot. Which ones drop the acorns? I would have wanted 2 pieces of leaf spring personally. I'm no Alex Steele and have no desire to forge down a 4-inch round for a letter opener. Yeah, I definitely am not a big fan of forging down something that heavy. Corwin, you have re-upped your subscription, and we have hit our 10 of 10 subscriber goal for the, I don't know if that's the month or what. But thank you so much for re-upping your subscription and for all of the support that you've given me throughout the last few months. Thank you so much. Oaks. Oh, oaks have acorns. All right, yeah. Oh, you would have went for 2 pieces of leaf spring, Alexi. That makes sense. I don't have any leaf spring. I only have coil spring, you know? Elms are great if you can find them. Maples look really nice, but I can't recommend. They have messy seeds too. They're little helicopters that plug up your gutters. Ooh, I cannot do that. The whirlybirds, my parents used to have maples, and every year my dad had to climb up on the roof. Woohoo! Incoming hype train. That's exciting. Thank you guys so much for that support. Welcome and thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, but my dad used to have to climb up on the roof and clean out the gutters every couple of months because, you know, otherwise it just clog up everything and it messed with the foundation. And so, yeah, we got to be really careful about what kind of trees we want to plant. I've been making integral bolster knives with the coil spring. Yeah, that makes some sense. That makes sense. They are pretty thick, so you could probably get a good bolster out of it. Yeah, like I said, I don't actually have any leaf spring. I used to have a couple pieces of it, but I ended up using those. Woohoo! On-screen celebration with fire. Thank you so much, Lexi. Welcome, or thank you for the bits and for all of your support. Thank you. So yeah, so I have Corwin sent me this spring, and I feel like it would be. It would be remiss of me not to use the materials that have been sent to me. We will be using the chain that Mahalo sent me as well. I just haven't quite gotten around to figuring out what design I want to do for the hold down that we're going to make with that chain. I have to decide whether I'm going to drill into my anvil stand or if I just want to put 2 weights on the chain. I feel like the 2 weights is probably the better way to go, because then I can change the weight. You know, if I need to hold something down a little bit heavier, then a heavier weight's going to hold things down better. If I don't need that extra weight, I can push it, or, you know, I can push the weight down and then, you know, I won't trip over it. So I don't know. I haven't quite decided how I want to go about it. That's why we haven't messed with that one yet. But we will go there. We will make a hold down out of the chain that Mahalo sent me. I'm really excited. All right, let's do another heat. And I think I need to do that one. Attach the chain on one side. The weight on the other works well. See, I thought about doing that. That was my first plan. Except I'm terrified that I'm going to end up tripping. When I inevitably drop the chain. Oh, speaking of drop, I forgot to reset our drop counter. All right, I'm actually pretty happy with the shape of that for the moment. So I'm going to try very hard to get the other side to look closer to this side, and we're going to start kind of squishing that extra thickness down. We've got lots of material left over for those handles. More heat. Kept mine over the anvil all the time at the step. May not work with yours, however. Yeah, see, that's my problem. I have such an unusual anvil because the shape, you know, I've got that extra step because the plate's broken off. So I have to be really careful about how I design my hold downs. The hold down that I have, which is this guy right here, it's been working pretty decently, but sometimes it's just not quite what I need it to be. It needs to be a little bit longer, I think. So I'm really looking forward to, you know, putting together a different style hold down with the chain. Need a little bit of time to breathe. Inhale and exhale. Like I said, my breath is a little bit weak today. I'm feeling all right. I don't think I'll have to end the stream prematurely or anything like that, but I do definitely need to spend the extra time to kind of allow the steel to soak and to catch my breath between heats. Like I said, this spring steel is a little bit heavier it's a little bit harder to hammer than the mild steel that I'm used to. It's not nearly as bad as the A2 that we've played with in the past, but overall, it's a little bit on the harder side. So it's taken me a little bit of extra time to kind of, or I guess more effort to get it to move like I want it to. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow I will be editing. On Wednesday, instead of using the big forge, we are going to use the mailbox. We're going to get a lot more heat, a lot more whole thing. So Wednesday we'll be back to the mailbox, and I think it should work pretty well. I do really like the spring steel that we've got. Stream issues. Am I having stream issues? It looks like I'm having some frame drops. All right, it looks like we're okay. We're getting some up and down. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. Yeah, I'm definitely having stream issues. A lot of stream issues. Give me a second. I'm going to check my internet speed. We'll see what's going on because I've got 0 kilobits and I got lots of kilobits. Worldwide issue. That's crazy. Do we have any internet? I don't know. I can see chat, but I'm not broad. I can see chat, but I'm not broadcasting. Retry. I have no internet right now. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. I'm not broadcasting at all. Nothing doing. All right. Now I'm up. Yay, I'm back again. Okay, that was a really weird blip. A super weird blip. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging with me. I have no idea what that was. So I was having some stability issues with my internet. It was broadcasting, and it was like broadcasting at 4-digit kilobytes per second, and then it would go down to 0, and it was going back and forth and back and forth. So, and I was dropping all the frames, so I don't know. Then when I hit a speed test, the first 2 I did had no internet at all, and then now I seem to have plenty, so I have no idea what happened there. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me. We're gonna, fingers crossed, continue working. Hopefully, you know, we stay stable. All right, so let us, I'm gonna change camera angles again. We're gonna go a little bit higher. So you guys can kind of see from an upper angle. Hopefully. All right. And I have no idea what was going on with that. It's a weird blip. Okay. Ray is back. Tell a friend. I am back. I am back. Okay. Let's do another heat. The wind blew the signal away from my router antennae. Maybe. I actually have a theory, but I'm not really going to talk about that theory because, yeah. All right. So I'm really going to start focusing in on flattening out this blade and kind of maintaining its shape. Well, that was fun. Okay, let's try this side now too. All right, back in the heat. The signal, my friend, is blowing in the wind. Oh my God, it's officially half hour before sunrise. There has to be 100 kookaburras outside screaming. I'll bet there is. All right, so we have an ad starting in about 3 minutes, and that ad is the opening ad because we had an interruption in the stream. So this is our brand new, first ad. I gotta figure out what time it is. Oh, okay, we've got about an hour left in the stream. So as long as I keep that in mind, I can remember what's going on. 2:56. Yes. Wait, no, I have more time than that. I have only been streaming for, it's almost 3. That means I've been streaming for an hour and a half. So yes, I do have an hour left. Time is hard, guys. Time is really hard. 21:56 here. That's kind of on the later side. That's what, 9? Almost 10? If I remember wait, no. Yeah, it's almost 10 because 24 hours, 10 or 24 hours is the, I'm really bad at military time, but I'm bad at all time, so I try. I try, guys. Goodness gracious. So yeah, like I said, there is an ad that will be coming up shortly. So we're back on our regular broadcast, I think. Over here, it's not military time, but time. Oh, okay. So that's just how you talk about time, okay? Because we start over at noon, right? We go from 1 a.m. to noon, and then it's 1 p.m. to midnight. So we divide the clock in half. Because I don't know. I don't know why it's easier, but I don't know. Actually, if I had my druthers, it would probably actually be military time because that makes more sense to me. You will have to get used to that 24-hour time format when you and the butler go to Europe to collect an Emmy or two. I mean, yeah. I will have to learn military time. I did have a job that worked in military time at one point. But it wasn't like one of those things that I really had to pay attention to, or I mean, for very long, I guess. I only had that job for about a year. Analog clocks obviously do that, but all digital ones here always show what you call military time. See, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Whew. So once this ad break ends, I think we're going to wait just a hair bit longer, and then we'll flatten out this last piece. Or not this last piece. We'll continue flattening out these scissors blades. I have both in my house. Oh, okay. I mean, it makes sense why you would, Oh, I don't have my phone. It's over there because advertisers are trying to get a hold of me. I remember things. It's already been a long day. I mean, it's only like 3 p.m. So, yeah. That makes it, what? 1500? I think that's what time it would be in military time. Yeah. Goodness. I think I lost track of what I was going to say. What was it that I was going to say? I don't know. All right. So in a few, we're going to take our next heat. We're going to flatten out these scissor blades. And after that heat, I kind of want to take a look at the blades and kind of compare them to the scissors that I brought outside. They aren't going to be exactly the same, the blades versus, the forged blades versus the manufactured blades, because those are made with material removal and these are being forged. But I kind of want to compare them a little bit because I just want them to be similar enough that they're usable for the butler. The butler does not like to be inconvenienced by large things. They like to have things that are just the same, if that makes sense. All right. So I'm trying to match the scissors as much as I can, if that makes sense. All right. Make it convenient for the butler to use them. All right, I'm going to put this here for the moment. And this is probably the time where we need to, you know, reset the drop counter. Because this is a great time for me to drop things. All right, let's take a look at these guys. We're going to compare these two. Looks like they're pretty similar overall. Now we're going to take a look and compare them. Okay. To that, they're a little bit on the wider side, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But I think that this is the right size that I want them to be. I think we're getting a pretty good comparison there. I want to put those over there so that I can kind of show you what I got going. You look at those, they're not that far apart. We're going to continue flattening these guys out, and I think I want the width of these blades to stay about there. Yeah, I think I have it set so that only the mods can use the reset commands. Yes, you can always remove material, but not easy to put it back. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to compare both of the blades to the scissors, because I want to make sure that everything is nice and like even and is going to function correctly. Take out some of the lumps and bumps and make them the same shape. So these are very sharp, pointy. They don't have any drops in them. I think my scissors are going to have a little bit more of a drop on them. Yes, I am basically making modified tongs. So so these scissors are literally a cross between, like the design that I'm going with is literally a cross between a blacksmith's knife and tongs. So we are riveting together two blacksmith knives into a set of tongs, I guess. So I'm hoping that I can make the blades, you know, even and whatnot, but I can do a lot more with grinding if I have to. I want to do as much forging as possible because I hate grinding, but yeah, the better forged these are, the easier it will be to grind them. The boss is a ricasso in this case. Yes, yes, definitely. I'm not as familiar with the terms of a knife, but I think I get what you're saying, Corwin. So the section right here where the rivet for these tongs is where the blade like sharpening is going to start. And then we're going to kind of create like an angle to put the rounded handles. Very similar to how our tongs kind of have like an angle that is cut in there to kind of line up the handles. as well as allowing them to cross and put together the jaws. So I'm trying to explain this in a way that both I understand and you guys also understand. I don't know if I'm doing a very good job of it, though. But yeah. I think in this case, though, also, I think what's going to happen is the straight is going to become where the blade is. So it's going to be backwards of where I would imagine that it would be if I were just making these as knives. We kind of have like an up curve, and normally that's like in a normal knife, you kind of have a little curve upward towards the spine of the knife. I think in this case, we're going to flip that on its head and we're going to sharpen the spine, like the flat. So I don't know, maybe that's like a drop point. That might be the style of knife that I'm talking about. I'm not positive on that. I'm going to change the view on the camera. Again, because, you know, I do that. Not too different, but a little bit. Scissors are more of a Wharncliffe or Sachs profile with chisel grinds. I'm gonna believe you because, like I said, I'm not amazingly familiar with types and parts of knives. I know there are a lot of blacksmiths who are very passionate about knives, but I've just never been one of them. So you guys will be, teaching me a bit as we go. All right, let's do another heat. All right, we're getting real close to being as thin as I'd like these to be. At least on the blade side. The straight side needs a little bit, I want them to be a little bit even. So I'm trying to do that. So what I was trying to talk about before is I think this right here is going to be our cutting edge, and this, the curved section, the curved area, is going to be more like the spine. And then we're going to put our rivet back here. And I think that's how it's going to end up being. They're going to cross this direction. But I may end up changing my design or my mind as we go. All right, so this side is a lot thicker than the other side, so we're going to focus in on this side for our next couple of heats and maybe not do so much on the other side. All right, I think it's Gatorade o'clock, so I'm gonna go grab a Gatorade real fast and then we'll be back. That is not Gatorade, that is Mountain Dew. It does not look like I have any cold Gatorades, so let me go grab a warm one. Alrighty. And I'm back. I'm back. And I'm ready. Red is my favorite Gatorade. Why? I don't know. Yellow is starting to grow on me. Like, I used to hate yellow, but it's starting to grow on me as I continue to drink it. Because I get red, blue, and yellow in the package of Gatorade that I buy at the bulk store. So I always end up drinking the yellow, but I wasn't a big fan of it. But it's starting to grow on me. I think the more I drink it, you know, I just get used to the taste of it. So I want to leave these blades a little bit on the thicker side, at least for the time being, because once we finish flattening out and shaping them, I want to flip them over and start working on drawing out handles for these guys. And I kind of have to, I need to have enough material that I can create a boss for this pair of scissors. And I want to give myself enough space to kind of play around with that and make a few mistakes. So I feel like leaving the blades a little bit on the thick side is going to really help me out there. I cut off the spring a little bit longer than I knew I was going to need at the same time because I want to kind of feel out how long I wanted the blade to be and things. So I will probably cut these off a little bit. Like I said, on Wednesday, we're going to start focusing in on the handle or like the handles of these guys are really hard. It's probably going to take us 2 streams for that, judging by the amount of movement I'm getting while we are shaping these blades. So I think this whole week we're going to be working on forging these scissors, and then next week maybe we'll try and work on cleaning them up and fitting them together. All right, let's do another heat. Oh, I want to put that on that side. This side is a little bit thicker than the other. So we're going to spend a little bit of extra time on it. All right, we're going to grab some more heat, and I'm not going to work on the other side this heat. We're going to take a break on that side, and we're going to work on, we're going to let this soak in some more heat, and then we'll do both on the next time. Sorry, off topic, but have you smithed anything like a goblet or mug or some other drinking vessel? I started one when I was in college, but I never really came up with a good way to attach a stem to the bowl of the vessel. So I kind of gave up on the project. So I know I know you were there when I was working in the small shop on the shoulder plate, and we kind of put wax inside the shoulder plate. I had this little bowl that I was using to scoop the wax inside of the shoulder plate. That was actually the goblet cup for that attempt. Like I said, I didn't finish it, but that was going to be the drinking part of the vessel. I could definitely drink from the ladle, or I could eat soup out of it. It's huge. Huge. I told the butler about it, and I was like, you know what? It's a wok ladle. You know, when at a Chinese restaurant, when they make like the fried rice, they have these ginormous ladles, you know, to work the wok, and it's like a huge wok, like yay big. That's what I made. I made a wok ladle. Next time I make a ladle, I will keep it in mind that I need to do a much smaller disc. I thought that a 4-inch disc would be too small, but you know what? The 6-inch disc was way too big. So I don't know. I kind of feel like I could get away with a 3-inch disc and be just fine. Like yay big. Yay big. 3 or 4 inches perfect. Yeah, I think, like I said, I made a 6-inch disc because I was like, oh, surely I needed to be bigger than a 4-inch disc. One scoop, one bowl full, I'm here for it, right? It's like in the movies where, you know, the people, they are in the bread line and they get soup in their bowl and it's like one soup spoon. That's my ladle. Hey Jack, welcome to the stream. Hello. All right, do we have enough heat for another hammer? I think we're getting there. Was good. We are making blades for a pair of scissors, or at least I'm attempting to. All right, I'm going to stick this guy over there because we're going to take a little bit of time to compare the two after I work on this blade. Like I was saying earlier, this is the best time for me to drop something, you know? Or the time that's most likely for me to drop something. All right. So I think these guys are pretty similar. Similar enough that I'm pretty happy with that. like I keep saying, we're really trying to kind of make sure that all of our pieces are similar to start with. All right, so those are actually kind of short blades if I cross those over. So I think we need to make that taper a little bit longer. Because, yeah, like I said, I think it's a little bit on the short side. It's going to take a lot of scissors to cut. Now I'm going to compare with the scissors. So maybe another inch back. Maybe another inch back. Godspeed, right? We're doing our best. It's going to be a big stretch for me to create this set of scissors because they have to be so precisely fitted together. And I'm usually not patient enough to do this. So, yeah, I'm going to attempt. I'm going to make the attempt. I definitely draw that out. Maybe a longer drop on the spine. I mean, that could be a thing. Right now, I'm kind of shaping them as though they're butter knives. And I think, Corwin, I think you're probably right. Maybe if I get rid of some of that rounded drop and kind of straighten it out just a little bit, it might work a little better. It might look a little better. But like I said, I need to make the blade a little bit longer before I put in the boss for the rivet. I don't necessarily need the scissors to be like really thin, like these guys all the way down. I mostly need them to cut the handle to kind of work correctly, and I want the same length of the blades. Do you have an ultimate plan on the shape? Heck, you could go post-apocalyptic and add harpoons on the spine. So my ultimate shape plan is to be, I want the blades to be a little bit thicker than this pair of scissors, but I want the handles to be very similar in size, because then it won't be that big of a thing for the butler to use them, because the butler is used to using these guys. So I need to draw out the blades just a hair bit more. So yeah. Could I offer some visual reference maybe? Sure, go ahead. We have an ad that's going to be starting in about 2 minutes. And I don't think we have enough heat to do another heat before that ad. So after that ad starts, I will do another heat. And yes, Jack, I'm still I'm still at a point where I can reshape these blades if I want to. So I'm welcome. You guys are welcome to send me pictures if you have something that you think would work. Some bonsai shears are still hand forged. Yes, there are some bonsai shears, and there are also some fabric scissors that are still hand forged. I want these to be a little bit closer to like kitchen shears, but I think that it's kind of like what I get is what I get almost. But yeah, you are more than welcome to send me some reference photos. I've watched several videos on how to do this, but I'm also, taking advice from fellow blacksmiths, and ideas from you guys. Let me open up my phone. Then you got this. I just failed scissors multiple times, so it's a sore memory for me. Yeah, like I said, I've watched a few videos on it, but I'm also like, I'm never confident enough. So I'm still gonna forge ahead, nervous or not, Did you already post a video or an image, or should I look something up? Hand forged bonsai scissors. Honestly, I've always wanted a nice pair of scissors hand forged and all, but I've always felt it's above my skill level to even attempt. Nah, if you'd have done your research, I wasn't going to bother you. I just wanted to help if you didn't know what you wanted it to shape the handle. Yeah. Yeah, these are very similar to kind of where I was going with that. Pretty similar. I do want one side to be a little bit more round and the other side to be a little more oblong, though. All right, we are in the middle of an ad break, so I don't even know if you can hear that. So I will repeat that. Yes, I watched that video. That's the video I watched, Corwin. And then I also watched a video on... There's this chick blacksmith who started as a farrier, and she made a pair of scissors, and I watched her video too. But yes, that's the video that I watched. Yes, Anvil Anna. That's the other video I watched because she made a set and then Niles made a set, and those are the two videos that I was really watching. I've watched them a couple times. So yes, Anvil Anna and Niles were the two videos that I watched of them making scissors, and they were actually the ones that inspired me to make these scissors. I watched those videos and I was like, I want to make those. So yeah, I those are the two videos I watched. And I looked up the bonsai scissors, and if you can make tongs, you can make scissors. See, that's why I feel like I'm forging ahead, right? I think that if I can make tongs, it's the same thing, right? How sharp are you gonna make the blades? I'm gonna, honestly, I don't really know. I want them to be able to open plastic packaging. That's my goal, right? But I will take whatever I can get, if I'm being completely honest. Flat bit tongs, but stubby nibs. Yeah. That's kind of, so like I'm kind of shaping these similar to a blacksmith's knife, right? So that's just a blade and then a long rat tail that comes around. And then I'll rivet them together and, sharpen them so that they actually fit together. The blades themselves, when in between the two, has to be like precisely flat so that they don't get hung up. So that's going to be the big thing. That's why we're actually going to be doing that cleanup work here on stream, because I want to make sure that you guys can, because I feel like that's one of the most important parts of the scissor build. So this week, fingers crossed, I will get the forging done. And then next week, fingers crossed, we will get the cleanup work done. All right, let's do another heat. All right, give me half a second just to make sure. I'm going to change the angle again. We're going to come over here. We're going to go a little bit on the lower side. Maybe not a full low shot, but partially. I think I want to go here because I want it to be relatively close. All right. There we go. That's the shot I want. That's the shot I want, guys. If I could hit record, that would be beautiful. And I know you guys can totally see that shot in the big camera, but I think it'll be all right. I think the shot is worth it. Okay. All right, so like I said, we're gonna bring this blade back a bit. All right. All right, we're gonna keep on keeping on that, but I think we're doing all right so far. Like I said, that flat spine is going to be where the blades are. All right. Got to be a little bit on the careful side. Make sure we don't make any cracks. There was a little bit of scale on the end there, and it kind of almost looked like it had started cracking, but it isn't. It's just scale. I could even forge in a bevel to save time grinding. I could. I'm not entirely sure that I want to, because like I said, it needs to be very, very precise. And so I'm actually inclined to leave all of the material a bit thick so that I can get a really nice flat grind, because I'm really bad at grinding things, right? I have a tendency to grind too deep in like these little areas and create little dips and divots. So the more material I grind off, the easier it's going to be to fix mistakes. So that's in my head, that's how things are going to be, or I mean that's how I'm thinking about it, I guess. But I don't know. This is very much going to be one of those things where I could definitely change or see myself changing direction every stream, just because I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing. And I will be doing more research in between streams. A surface grinder with a mag chuck would be clutch. It would be clutch, but I don't own one. So we will be making do with the tools that we have. I need to see about getting new belts for my belt grinder. I have a belt grinder attachment for my bench grinder, and it's been a long time since I've changed the belts. So I need to see if they're still in business and see if I can't get some more belts for it. And that's probably where we're going to get most of our, grinding done on. Hawk an Emmy and buy one. Better, or the butler will never notice, right? I don't know. Honest to God, I have no idea how much an Emmy is actually worth. But I mean, like I said, there's 6 in there. I'm sure the butler wouldn't notice 1 missing. Time to check the Googles, right? So yeah, I'm not entirely sure exactly how we're going to go about doing this, but and like I said, I will be doing more research in between streams, so I may end up changing my approach at different times throughout this process. But what I know now is what I am applying right now, as far as the knowledge and stuff. Ooh, scissors! Something I want to make too. Let's have a look-see. Welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. We're just really getting started. Right now we are shaping the blades. I'm trying to leave them a little bit thick so that I have enough leeway to screw up a few times. I'm relatively novice as a blacksmith. So this is really going to be a stretch project for me, because in order to make functional scissors, there is a level of precision that one needs, and I don't know if I have it or not, but we're gonna see. I may end up having a scissor-shaped object that doesn't even cut. We'll see. But I'm willing to take that gamble. And like I said, I think that it's going to be a stretch project, and I think that it's going to be fun. All right, let's do another heat. We are kind of deliberating on how long we want the blades right now. I'm pretty happy with that size right now. So I need to thin out this area. And it's also going to fatten it out a little. Alright, I think we're actually not doing so so bad. I think we're actually doing pretty good on these scissors. So now I'm going to take a look at the length of them. See, that's a lot better, a lot closer. Not that I need them to be exactly like these, but I want them to, I want to have the same cutting surface as the manufactured scissors. So I'm going to put this guy here. So we can kind of take a look and compare the two sides as we go. All right. So it looks like we've got a similar length. It's not exactly the same, so maybe we'll bring this back just a hair more. All right, so let's grab another pair of tongs. And we want them to go like so. So I think that's probably about the length that we want these blades to be. That's a pretty good scissor, like cutting edge on these scissors. So not bad. I think that I'm pretty happy with that. Let's compare them again. All right. Not too bad. Couple more heats to clean them up a little bit. Those edges are a little wobbly. Want to clean them up, make sure that they're nice and ready to be ground. What steel are you using for it? Yes, they are going to be some chunky scissors. Like I said, I'm leaving myself a lot of excess material that I can grind off. because they need to be so precisely fitting together. I want to make sure that they are, I have a lot of leeway for mistakes. So this is actually spring steel that I have recycled off of a truck spring. It is a 5/8 inch diameter round truck spring. So yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. So the reason that I picked spring steel is because when I watched a couple of videos on the scissors and how they fit together. And one of the videos had the blades, the interior blade part was actually slightly curved inward so that they kind of pushed each other apart, but also pushed together to kind of get that tight fit. And that I need something that's going to give me a bit of rigidity so that I can get that extra little spring. So spring steel was the way I decided to go. I have a couple other materials that I could have chosen to do, but I think this is probably going to be my best bet. So I think we're probably going to do one, maybe two more heats today. We've been streaming for pretty long time. Well, I don't know. We've been streaming for about 2.5 hours. We did have a break in there where the stream broke, but so I will be back on Wednesday. We are going to start working on shaping the handles. These are going to kind of just be like tapered, like rat tails that kind of loop around to give you a backstop, so when you open them, you can open them comfortably. So I think the first thing that we're going to work on Wednesday is actually the area that we are going to be putting the rivet. I think that the transition between the blades, the rivet, and the handles is going to be incredibly important. And I've got to kind of reconcile that before I start moving on. Do you have any blacksmithing books that you can recommend? I personally don't have any specific book recommendations that I can pull out of my head. But if you join my Discord, I can find a few. And if those of you who are in chat and are blacksmiths have any recommendations, feel free to post those. There are several really good ones out there, but I can't remember their titles like right offhand. So like I said, if you join my Discord, I'll see about posting a few good titles that I've found. There's several of them. Not even just several. There are hundreds of good blacksmithing textbooks out there. I don't know any particular offhand that I can just rattle off. So I apologize. I am definitely looking for technique and, being artistic making things. Yes. Yeah, Practical Blacksmithing, annotated by Adam Lee Flewell Smith. Yes, that one's a good one. There's several, like I said, there's hundreds of them, but that's a good start. I'm a little clueless when thinking of what to make from scrap steel. I have this, I periodically will go to Google and I will Google search beginner blacksmithing projects, and I will go through them, and every once in a while I find something really good that I didn't think of before. There are also, like, I go around and I just look at things, and anything that that is made of metal there's always like a chance that you can blacksmith that. So I am, you know, I'm always looking at just stuff. Anything that I think I can make, I'll try it. Micro, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. We have reached 510 followers. Thank you so much for that milestone. I'm so super excited. Thank you for all of your support throughout this last year and some change. Thank you so much. A few good YouTube channels to follow are Black Bear Forge, Christ-Centered Ironworks, and Bar Run Forge for bladesmithing. The River Experience is a great one. There are so many good ones out there. Blacksmithing, or Let's Go Blacksmithing and Adventures is also really good. He's not just a blacksmithing channel, but he's got some really good beginner projects there. Some animals that are just made with the Friedrich's cross shape. There's just some amazing stuff he's got going. So far making a leaf keychain and I failed, but going to work on it a little more. Yeah, I cannot say enough that, you know, practice makes better. I don't know that practice makes perfect. I mean, I know that the saying is practice makes perfect, but practice definitely makes better. Yeah, I love Christ-Centered Ironworks and Black Bear Forge. Yeah, I also have a YouTube channel under the same name, Ray's Smithy, where I post edited versions of all of the projects that we make here on stream. You can also find my raw streams on that channel as well, if you're interested in looking at my stuff too. All right, let's do another heat, but first, I think, let me check. I think I'm just gonna stay on this shot. I like this shot. I know you guys can see the camera in the wide, but I think it's worth it. I think this is a good shot. Okay. Yeah, Corwin, I think you're right. I like the much more gradual curve on that. I think that's a good shape. All right. Looks less elementary school scissory, right? Yeah, I think that really hard curve that I had really, as I said, I was kind of creating something that looked more like a blacksmith knife. And because the blade is going to be the straight, what would be the spine of a blacksmith knife, I think that I needed to make that a little bit more gradual. And I think that is definitely where I want to go. Oh, I tested my first burner so far on my gas forge. It ran pretty smoothly. Still working on it. Trying to finish it up so I can add the other 2 burners and also lock in the forge in place so the plates don't move. But very happy so far. Cannot wait to test it on making Damascus swords and knives. Think I'll keep cool for some normal blacksmithing. I won't lie. if you're still working on leaves, I would make 100 leaves before you want to attempt Damascus. That's kind of my opinion. I'm always of the opinion that you should do 100 leaves, 100 hooks, 100 nails, just to get those basic fundamentals down before you start doing things that are more challenging. Because once you get the fundamentals, you can kind of use those fundamentals to do anything else. But I mean, I will encourage you to do whatever makes you happy too, I just think that getting a little bit of the fundamentals down before you start making Damascus in the beginning. Yes, hammer control is key. And that's why you make 100 leaves, 100 hooks, 100 nails. So you can get that hammer control down and make sure that you know how your metal is going to move. And that will save you a lot of frustration getting your steel to stick. Tell me about it, sheesh. Yes. Hammer control, hammer control. I'm just now getting to the point where I feel like my hammer control is starting to get there. And I still miss sometimes. That's why I do a lot of integrals lately. Yes, hammer control. Hammer control. All right, I think I'm going to do one more heat, and then we will probably end the stream. I'm going to snooze this, and if it comes back while I'm in the middle of the heat, hopefully you guys are ping and mahalo. If you guys are still here, go ahead and snooze it for me. All right. I got a fly press, so I'm hoping that will help with Damascus when I do start it. But I will start with something very small. I mean, fair. Fair. Okay. All right, there we got one. Two. Not bad, not bad. Those are looking pretty good. All right. So that's all she wrote for today, I think. Actually, you know what? I lied. I'm going to do that first. But yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with how these two are coming out so far. They seem pretty nice and shapely. Like I said, the straight side is going to be the cutting side on these scissors. So for Wednesday's stream, we're going to focus in on this section right here at first. Make ourselves a little bit of a boss so that we can so that we can rivet them together, and then we're going to start drawing out the back ends into handles. Alrighty. So thank you all for joining me today. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you guys Wednesday. So we are going to raid off. Well practiced, snoozer. Yes, you are. All right. So thank you all for joining me today. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Yeah. I don't even think I have years of blacksmithing, probably a few months. We're working on 2 pairs. A tongs, a knife, normal flat tongs, as well as working on fish fillet. That's so cool. Well, I'm glad that you're excited about blacksmithing, and I hope that you have a blast and spend years to come blacksmithing. We are going to raid off to J.K. Nudson, I think. It's been a while since we've seen him on. Alrighty, guys. Thanks, guys. Bye.